Hello, this is MrChabry, and it's time for one more Generation 1 Gym Leader Challenge. This is the last type for us to do. That's going to be the Rock type. Let me introduce you to Jasper, Kanto's best cave-exploring spelunker. Starting out, Jasper is not quite the world-renowned spelunker. He is just starting his journey, and he actually picked Squirtle. Now, the main reason why we went with Squirtle is so our rival will have Venusaur, who I think will be a bigger challenge in the endgame. However, let's meet our rival, Peridot, who also wants to be a world-renowned spelunker. So we've got two characters wanting to be world-famous for the same thing. However, only one of them can become the world's most famous spelunker. And right off the bat, we win this challenge pretty quick and pretty easy. And at this point, Jasper has made his way into Pewter City. And while he's in Pewter City, there is a building that catches his eye. The Museum of Natural History. It is at this museum he comes across some fossilized remains of ancient Pokemon. Now, these fossils were found deep in caves. Jasper is inspired. He wants to go make some of his own discoveries. And that's what he's going to do. But before he can make his way to the nearest cave system of Mount Moon, he has to take on Brock, the Rock-type gym leader. And it is this battle that gives him another inspiration. These Rock types are amazing Pokemon, and he falls in love. He makes it his mission to only use Rock-type Pokemon. The battle itself didn't take very long. We had Squirtle. Squirtle sneezing on any Rock type will knock it out. But the main thing about his battle with Brock is that this is where his love for Rock types start. Not only is he intrigued by caves, but he's intrigued by rocks. At this point, Jasper has made his way to Mount Moon. Now, he is very intrigued with the idea of using Rock types and finding some fossils. And in order to do that, he is going to have to go into this cave and spelunk through it. And this is where he comes across his first member of his team, Geodude. And after defeating a super nerd, he finds a fossil. He's going to decide to choose the Helix fossil, giving him Ammonite later on. Upon hearing of Jasper's successful spelunking trip, Peridot is going to challenge him to a Pokemon battle. Geodude is going to throw some rocks at the Pidgeotto, and it takes two of those to knock it out. Next up is Abra, and Abra is, oddly enough, just free experience at this point. It only knows the move Teleport. Next up is Rattata. Now, Rattata doesn't really have much that it can do to Geodude. The only thing it could do is possibly lower its defense and be an issue later on. However, it just takes two Mega Punches to knock out that rat. And now, here is the Pokemon that is the biggest threat, being Bulbasaur. So, looking at that, it looks like it's going to take 3 hits to knock it out. A Leech Seed is going to give it some more survivability, but instead of going for something like Vine Whip, it just goes Leech Seed again, giving us a victory. From across the river, Jasper sees a cave, Cerulean Cave. If only he could surf over there, he could explore it. That's his new mission. That's his main mission now. At this point, I decided it's probably best if we train up before taking on Misty. So I actually continue on to Vermilion City and battle some of the trainers around there. That way I can get my Geodude leveled up. And we're eventually going to have it evolve into Graveler. But I'm not quite ready to take on Misty. I'm actually going to go to the SS Anne and take on the rival once again. Pidgeotto stands no chance against a rock throw. And we're going to take on the Raticate, and it also stands no chance. Kadabra comes out, and now it's not as free as it was as an Abra, but instead he goes for a Teleport, which is a wasted turn and just gives us free experience. Now it's time for the Ivysaur, and I am nervous about this thing, but he goes for Leech Seed instead of Vine Whip, so we are very lucky there. And after getting some more experience, it's time to head back to Cerulean so we can take on Misty. So I'm going to start off with Graveler, and you can see Graveler almost gets wiped out with one water gun. So we're going to do some more shenanigans here. We're going to do some more tech ideas. We're going to use Bubble on Starmie, and that's because I want to slow the Starmie down to the point where Graveler will be going first. So I'm just going to keep spamming Bubble, and maybe throw some tail whips at it, so that way when Graveler comes in, it should be able to one-shot, because if Starmie sneezes at Graveler, it's over. But luckily we do get the knockout once we go into Graveler and get a Mega Punch in. And at this point we can go spelunking into Rock Tunnel, and that's where we're going to come across another rock type that we can add to our team, and that being Onix. Now Onix has a lot of bulk. It has lower attack, so we have to keep that in mind when using it, but we can make this thing useful for our team. At this point, I decide it's time to take on Giovanni, and I'm going to lead off with my Onix, but I realize my Onix is not in the shape to battle, so I actually go into War Turtle. I should have actually went into Graveler here, but I really wanted Onix to get some experience, but I should have been thinking that War Turtle was going to sponge up some of that experience, and just basically it be wasted. So this time I'm going to go into Graveler. Now, I do not have any ground-type moves yet on Graveler, which is very unfortunate, so I have to rely on Mega Punch, which you can see it's not the most accurate move, and it's not doing that much, but we're still doing more damage than what our opponent is doing. Kangaskhan comes out, and it actually takes the Mega Punch surprisingly well, so I switch it up with Rock Slide, which gives us a big KO. Now we make our way to Lavender Town, and there we're going to take on our rival once again. This time we're going to lead off with Onix, and the main reason is I wanted to get some experience on this thing, and it easily takes on the Pidgeotto. But now we're going to see a Pokemon that is a big threat to us, and that's going to be Gyarados, which just Hydro Pumps both of my Mon, knocking them out one shot. After a little bit of training, we're going to go back in, and this time we're going to use a different tactic. We do the same thing against the Pidgeotto, Rock Throw with our Onix, easily knocking it out. But now, it's where Gyarados comes out that we change our tactics. This time, we're going to use War Turtle just to slow it down. That way, Graveler can come in and take care of things. So we just let War Turtle be the sacrificial lamb. And Onix comes out and Rock Throws. Now, Rock Throw's not doing that much. I was hoping to do some more. But the unfortunate thing is it's so little. Rock Slide will finish it off with Graveler, and the Growlithe comes out. We do the same thing, just Rock Slide it away. Kadabra comes out, and we're going to get confused, and you're going to see we're just going to keep smacking ourselves in confusion, which is quite annoying. But we finally knock it out, and now Ivysaur comes out. I'm just going to go kablooey on it, and I do have my HM Mon ducked, so that's why it counts as a victory for us. And at this point, I decide we need to add some more to our team. And at this point, we make our way to the Safari Zone. That's where we're going to find Rhyhorn, our next rock type. You might find it odd that we waited so late in the game to face Lieutenant Surge. And the main reason is I wanted Rhyhorn to get the experience from this battle. And I knew I could easily take on Lieutenant Surge with Graveler. But Rhyhorn, coming in so late in the game, needed a way to get experience, and Lieutenant Surge is really the best place for Rhyhorn to gain that experience, because his Pokemon really can't touch Rhyhorn. They don't have anything that they can really do to do good damage onto it. So Horn Attack is pretty free here. The only thing is that he's going to just keep throwing Thunderbolts at me. Doesn't do anything, and we get free experience with our Rhyhorn. And this would also be a perfect time to take on the next gym leader, Koga. Now, we have an advantage when it comes to Koga because ground-type moves can do super effective damage, and we do have the move Dig on our Onix. I start off with Rhyhorn, though, just trying to get that experience, but I see that it's not doing quite enough, and Onix could easily take this thing on, so we would make that switch. I do want to get some experience for Rhyhorn, though, so we're going to switch back into Rhyhorn. And you're going to see Horn Attack's doing nothing. So I'll go back into Onix to get that nice dig onto it. And you're going to see that Muck survives. And it's whittling us down with that sludge, which is really annoying. But we finally take down the Muck. Next up is Coughing. We know we can take this thing on. But it taking some defense boost is going to really hurt us in the long run. And Onix only has one more turn to do anything. But at this point, we're going to switch to Rhyhorn, back to Onix, expecting the self-destruct, so that way we don't lose any of that experience, and Rhyhorn gets to level up here. Now that we have Surf, we can finally surf over to Cerulean Cave and make our way. So, according to this guard, only the champion is allowed in. You know what that means. Jasper has to become the Kanto Pokemon League champion to make his way into Cerulean Cave. And that's what he will do. So at this point, two things happen in Jasper's journey. The Helix fossil he's had since Mount Moon is going to be revived into Ammonite. Not only that, when he returns back to the museum, he's gifted an old amber. This old amber is used to revive Aerodactyl. So in one swoop, he has two new team members. And at this point, we travel back to Celadon City so we can take on Erica. And now that we have Aerodactyl and we have the move Fly, we can do a lot more damage to these grass types. Whereas before, we would have struggled with only a Graveler and Onix. So we cut right through the Victory Bell, right through the Tangela, and now Vileplume stands no chance. Aerodactyl just cuts right through everything. Also do an off-screen trade so that way we can get Golem, the final form of Geodude. This thing is going to be a great team member. We've also given it the Earthquake TM, just giving it that much more usability. And at this point, we hop on to Cinnabar Island so we can take on Blaine. And I'm hoping that Ammonite gets to shine here because it really needs some of that experience too, and I would love to have an Amistar. So we surf to knock out the Growlithe, the Ponyta, and now we see the Rapidash. I'm going to go into our Onix to try to get some chip damage onto it. And you can see that Dig actually does quite well here, so giving Onix some nice experience. But next up is Arcanine. What I'm going to do is try to throw a Toxic at this thing. He wastes some turns going for Roar. And you see Ember actually does quite a bit of damage. We also get burnt. So this thing is pretty much just shut down. Rhyhorn comes out mainly just to take some of these hits, so that way I can get a free turn into Ammonite. So I'm going to throw a Surf, and this actually seems to be my last Surf, and one Surf is all that I need. In order to become the league champion, he has to take on Sabrina, but he finds that Team Rocket has barricaded the gym, so he has to make his way into Saffron City to get Team Rocket out. And surprise, he finds Peridot just hanging out there. So he has to face Peridot. He leads off with Rhyhorn, and this Rhyhorn actually has Thunderbolt. The main reason I put that on there is to give some super effective opportunities for the Gyarados, which I don't know if it's going to actually work out very well on a Rhyhorn. So I'm going to actually switch up so I can just see how much damage Ammonite can throw at this thing, and you can see that Hydro Pump does a ton of damage, even onto Ammonite. That's kind of scary. I'm going to go into Aerodactyl. I'm still kind of nervous about using Rhyhorn. It might make more sense later on as a ride-on, and it might have more stats to handle that. But at this point, it doesn't quite do that. So I'm going to try to keep away from the Gyarados. Growlithe stands no chance with a Dig. Alakazam comes out, and I go into Golem. Golem is my bulkiest Mon on my team, and you can see even with that bulk, a Psybeam just almost shuts it down. Next up is Venusaur, and really for Venusaur, Aerodactyl is my answer. And it takes two flies to knock this thing out. But we do knock it out. Heading up the stairs, actually up the elevator, there's no stairs that access the president's room. I don't know why they designed it like that. I'm not an architect. But we face Giovanni. Giovanni at this point surprisingly has some Pokemon that don't quite cut it. One being this Nidorino. Now if that thing was fully evolved, which it could be, it would be a bigger threat, but he wants to use Nidorino still. Rhyhorn still getting a lot of good use here. I'm going to try Skull Bash because I never use Skull Bash ever, and I wanted to just give it a shot. It's a terrible move. It doesn't do hardly anything, and it takes 2 turns to charge it up. But I do get some experience on our Rhyhorn. And now I'm going to switch out into Ammonite because Ammonite has that Surf. The good thing about Surf is that it's really good against Rhyhorn. We're going to do the same thing with the Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen has some more bulk to it, but we still shut that thing down. 2 more gyms left, and one of those is Sabrina. Now, Sabrina is pretty scary. Her Pokemon all have really high special, and rock types usually have low special. So you can see Ammonite just gets swept aside pretty quickly. Aerodactyl comes out. This thing has the speed advantage against most of her mines, so we're able to do some decent damage. Now, Mr. Mime here, though, setting up barriers is going to be more of an issue for us. So it's taking quite a few flies to take care of this thing. However, it's really my best option. And you can see she wastes some turns going for Light Screen, which just gives us some free knockouts on that. Venomoth comes out. It misses the Stun Spore, which is great for us. But now Alakazam comes out, and I actually outspeed it, which I was actually surprised. And instead of taking the opportunity to attack us, she wastes a turn, giving us a victory. On to Giovanni. This is our last time facing the mastermind of Team Rocket. And he leads off with a Rhyhorn. Rhyhorn is super effectively hit with a Surf from Ammonite. It's like a sneeze and it goes down. Dugtrio comes out, and we easily knock that thing out. Nidoqueen comes out, and I'm going to go into Onix. Now, the thing is, Nidoqueen could be a threat. However, he doesn't have good moves on this thing. So if this thing had something like Earthquake, now that would be a threat to us. But Giovanni does not want to use some of these ground-type moves on his Pokemon. So they just end up being nothing to us. I try to Screech here, but he goes for a Guard Spec like he predicted it. And I go into Rhyhorn just to give it some experience. However, you can see that Strength is doing hardly anything, so I decide I'm just going to stick it out, go back and forth a few times. Really, me being Poison is going to give him the advantage, and it ends up going down. But I do want Onix to get the experience here, and a quick dig will knock out the Nidoking. Last up is Rhydon. Now, Rhydon is super weak to water, but it hits us with a Fissure right out of the gate, which surprised me. I didn't expect that. So I need to get rid of this thing before it becomes a problem. And we finally knock it out with some Earthquakes from Golem. So before continuing on, Jasper wants to take a little break, a little exploratory session, if you will. And he ends up finding another cave to Spelunk into, that being Seafoam Caverns. Jasper still has his heart set on the goal of making it into Cerulean Cave, and in order to do that, he has to take on the Pokemon League. Now, on his way there, Peridot is going to stop him, and it's time for another battle with his spelunking rival. This time, we're going to lead off with Rhyhorn and throw some Thunderbolts at this Pidgeot. And it takes a few, but it finally goes down. I do think having a Rock-type move would be way better on Rhyhorn, but we've already used Rock Slide on Golem. We're going to go into Ammonite, take out the other Rhyhorn, and now this Pokemon is what I'm most afraid of. I'm going to throw a Blizzard, hoping for a Freeze, and we get the Freeze. That's really what we needed to be able to take on this Gyarados. So we're just going to well on it until it goes down. Next up is Growlithe, and I'm going to go into Onix to get some experience on it. And you can see that Dig does quite a bit of damage, and Growlithe is going to waste some turns going for Agility. So it gives us a pretty easy victory against that thing. However, Alakazam comes out. This thing is also scary. A lot of my challenge playthroughs have a brick wall that I have to train through here. And you can see that we're getting hit quite hard with this Alakazam, and we're not quite able to do as much damage as I would hope. Now, he does waste some turns going for Reflect, and those turns gives us a nice hit on it. However, it's not enough to finish it off, but Rhyhorn comes in, and with some wasted Reflects, we finally knock it out. But that just leaves Venusaur. Now, this thing is super scary. One Vine Whip, we are done, and I don't outspeed it with anything. Venusaur is surprisingly fast. I decide I need to train up, and we're finally going to get Ammonite to evolve into Amistar. With that, let's go ahead and jump into another attempt against this thing. You can see Pidgeot isn't really the threat here. Now, it could be annoying in other playthroughs, but with rock types, it really can't do anything. Our opponent's Rhyhorn is super weak to Surf. If you've got Surf, you don't have to worry. But now Blizzard is for the Gyarados, and I'm hoping for another Freeze. You can see Amistar actually takes these hits a lot better than Ammonite did. And we didn't even need the Freeze. We were able to take it out. But now that leaves Growlithe coming out, and we've already proven that Dig is greatly appreciated against this thing. And it just takes a few of those, and it's gone. Next up is Alakazam. Like I said, this thing is pretty scary. A lot of my runs have trouble with Alakazam, but you can see that, yeah, it's just one-shotting most of my mons. So we're just worried about being able to survive a hit. We do survive with Golem, and he does waste a turn with the Reflect, which gives us what we needed. But now it is time for Venusaur. This thing is surprisingly fast, like I said. Aerodactyl is probably my best bet against this, but we don't have our Aerodactyl with us. So we're just going to get wiped out again. Rhyhorn's our last Pokemon. What can Rhyhorn do? Well, it can get hit with a Razor Leaf, and it dies. After some more training, we finally evolve Rhyhorn, our last Pokemon on our team to evolve. And now that we have Rhyhorn evolved into Rhydon, maybe we are ready to take on Peridot. So we're going to hop right into this. Onix now at a higher level. You can see it still struggles in taking on Pidgeot, but that's because its attack is not actually that high. It wastes turns going for agility, so that gives us some free turns for Screech, and that ends up paying out. I did get rid of the HM Mon Ducks because I don't need it at this point, and it makes it a lot simpler to do these battles. Oh yeah, Almastar just demolishes Rhyhorn. I don't even need to comment on that. But now Gyarados comes out. I go for a Blizzard. You can see that we're doing comparable damage to each other. I just need to not miss Blizzard, and we don't miss Blizzard. So Almastar finally coming in, being able to take on that Gyarados. Next up is Growlithe. Now, Growlithe goes down pretty quickly to a Surf. That leaves Alakazam. Now, Alakazam is a scary Pokemon. I go into Golem here, hoping that I can get a Paralysis. And I don't quite get a Paralysis, but he does waste turns going for Reflect. So that works out in our favor. Last up is Venusaur. Like I said, this thing, I can't really do much. I'm hoping to outspeed with Onix. I don't outspeed with Onix. Aerodactyl is my Mon that is an answer to this, but you can see that it takes two. Luckily, Vine Whip doesn't really do that much to us, but we miss the Fly, which is very annoying. Very annoying. If we had hit that Fly, Venusaur would have went down. So we're going to go ahead and just give Aerodactyl a chance here. So we're going to revive Aerodactyl. Give it that Fly that it needs, and we knock out Peridot's Venusaur. And on his way to the league, Jasper's going to find another cave to spelunk into. And that's going to be Victory Road. It's odd that they don't call this a cave. They call it Victory Road. But, yeah. He's going to spelunk in here because he has to find his way to the Pokemon League. By hour 20, we finally make it to the Elite Four. And to be honest, I think Lorelei is going to be our biggest challenge here. That's because not only does her Pokemon have the water typing, their natural ice typing can hit us super effective, or most of my Mons super effective. And they have high special, which my Mons are lacking on. You can see Thunderbolt doesn't quite cut it, so I try switching up with Mega Kick, and it still doesn't quite cut it. Golem gets one shot by a crit Aurora Beam, so that's not good in my book. And Almastar comes out. I'm hoping that Spike Cannon can do some damage, but it doesn't quite do it. So I'm going to start throwing some Screeches at this thing to try to lower its defense, and that way Aerodactyl could come in and hopefully knock it out. But you can see it takes two Flies even with the reduction of defense. Cloyster comes out, and I really don't have anything for Cloyster. I'm hoping that maybe if I get some speed boost, I can probably get some crits, or maybe a badge boost. But it's still not enough. I'm going to go into Almastar. Surf does hardly anything, and we just get stuck with these clamps, and we can't do much. So we need some more training. And after training a little bit, we head back to face Lorelei. This time, we're going to do things a little bit different. I'm going to lead off with Screeches from Onix, and I only get one before we get knocked out. Then I go into Golem to get some rock slides, and that actually works out against the Dugong. But now Cloyster is out here, and I'm hoping that Thunderbolt can do some damage. It does decent damage, but now if we could survive an Aurora Beam, we might be able to hit back. And really, I should have rock slided there, because Cloyster is weak to that. But an Earthquake made sense in my mind, and we lost Golem. Now Slowbro comes out, and I really don't know what to do against Slowbro. It is so bulky, and it can boost its special with Amnesia. So we're in a tough situation with this thing. Plus, Water Gun is just cutting right through our Aerodactyl, and Withdraw is boosting its defense, so that way Fly isn't even doing it. So I'm hoping maybe I can get a crit with an Agility, and maybe a Fly will do it, and it finally cuts right through. Jinx comes out, and we almost one-shot Jinx, but luckily for us, she doesn't Ice Punch us. Now Lapras is here, and Lapras is scary. We missed the Fly. That Fly would have been really nice to hit, but we missed. And we don't have anything for Lapras. Amistar can just throw Hydro Pumps, but in the Hydro Pump war, Lapras will win. It would be great if this thing had Mega Drain, but in Generation 1, Amistar doesn't get Mega Drain. I feel like it does later on. Some more training, and I think I've got a tactic that might work. You can see that I feel like we got pretty close. If it wasn't for Aerodactyl missing, we would have had a better position. But here, I'm just going to go right off the bat with some aggressive explosion against the Dugong, and we do knock it out. But Aerodactyl actually takes quite a bit of damage there. Now we're going to go for Rhydon, so that way we can get a Thunderbolt, and it takes 2 Thunderbolts to knock this thing out. However, we don't quite get that, but Golem can come in and actually Rock Slides Cloyster. So we're in a good position. Slowbro, however, is still a scary Pokemon. I'm hoping a Body Slam will paralyze this thing, so that way it doesn't keep getting some of those boosts. And a Water Gun just cuts mostly through us, but I'm actually surprised that we survived. That's actually great. Aerodactyl comes out. We should outspeed the Jinx at this rate, and we do, and we one-shot the Jinx. Next up is Lapras. Now, this thing was the toughest Mon for us to deal with, and Blizzard is just going to cut right through us. I'm hoping that maybe I can knock this thing out, and we actually get a Rock Slide in before we lose Golem. So Amistar, if we can hit this Hydro Pump, we knock out Lapras, and we do hit the Hydro Pump. So we finally got past Lorelei. The next member of the Elite Four is Bruno. Bruno with his fighting types. Now, us being rock, that means we are weak to his fighting type moves. So I'm hoping that we can hit these things hard and get rid of them before they hit us. Onix gets sneezed on and it dies. But now Hitmonchan comes out. This thing goes for first a Mega Punch and then a Thunder Punch. Luckily, it doesn't have good special, so Aerodactyl can take that. I'm going to go ahead and fly, and you can see that Jump Kick in this generation doesn't do as much recoil damage if it misses as it does in later gens. But we do get rid of that thing. Onix comes out, and I'm going to get Amistar in here. I actually meant to switch Amistar, but I think I misclicked there. So now we've got Machamp coming in, and I'm just going to fly, and we actually miss. But luckily, he wastes a turn going for Focus Energy and then Fissure. He can't even hit Aerodactyl with Fissure, so we get an easy victory there. Next up is Agatha. So Agatha is actually a pretty scary trainer for us to face now. And that's because her Pokemon have high special. My Pokemon have low special. So even though most of my Mons can hit super effective with ground type moves here, I'm still nervous. You can see that Onix is actually struggling to get the winning knockout on the Gengar. And we're going to actually switch into Rhydon to throw a Thunderbolt at the Golbat, and it looks to be a 3-hit KO, and I'm wanting to see if Mega Kick would do more damage, but we just can't hit worth anything, and it actually does do more damage, so it could be a roll, could be that. Thunderbolt is just not that great on Rhydon. Anyway, Onix takes care of the Haunter pretty quickly. Arbok comes out, and we're just going to go ahead and dig into that thing. It takes 2 digs, which I'm actually surprised. I was thinking 1 would be enough. But she's going to switch into Gengar, and we need to get some of these hits. Luckily, she wastes the turn with Dream Eater. If she hypnosised us and then did some more shenanigans on us, we would have struggled there. But Arbok goes down pretty quickly, giving us the victory. Next up is Lance. Now, Lance not only has Dragon-type Pokemon, but he also has Flying-type, so hopefully our Rock-types can do decent here. But he leads off with the scariest Mon, and I'm going to try to Thunderbolt it, but we don't quite Thunderbolt it, so yeah, we don't get that tactic in. Going to Onix, hoping that I can outspeed and do something. Not quite. Golem, hoping he misses Hydro Pump. He doesn't miss, and he just demolishes us. And then we get demolished with our Aerodactyl as well. So things are not looking good against Lance. I go into Amistar, and Amistar actually seems like it can 1v1. Luckily, he misses a Hydro Pump, which is going to be big for us, because that keeps us out of range of Dragon Rage, and we do get rid of the Dragonair. The next Dragonair comes out, and we one-shot it with Blizzard. Aerodactyl comes out, and he hits us with a Hyper Beam, but we survive. Now, if I get hit at all with Dragonite, I'm out. Luckily, he misses, giving us the opportunity to Ice Beam. So now Jasper has finally made it to one last barrier. Before he can take on Cerulean Cave, he has to defeat Peridot, who also wants to explore Cerulean Cave. So after a few rare candies, it's time to face on Peridot for the last time. We start off with Onix, who can easily 1v1 Pidgeot. Pidgeot does do a lot of damage to Onix, though, with those Sky attacks, and it actually gets a Mirror move. I'm going to throw a Max Potion at Onix. Now, we do have Toxic on this thing, which is actually really great, and that is able to whittle down the Pidgeot just enough. Alakazam comes out. Let's be honest, I'm scared of this thing, but I'm hoping Golem can survive a hit and maybe paralyze. We do survive the hit, but we don't paralyze, which is unfortunate. We go into Aerodactyl, and Aerodactyl actually outspeeds, but the Reflect is going to give it just enough bulk to survive, but we do knock it out with the next turn. Rhydon comes out, and if you sneeze at Rhydon, Rhydon goes away, and hey, we just sneezed at it. Next up is Gyarados. Now, I am terrified of Gyarados, and I'm going back to my Thunderbolt strategy, but like before, we don't even get to experience it because we get one shot. So Amistar comes out. We miss the Blizzard this time, which is actually very annoying, and we actually missed 2 Blizzards. So I'm going to go ahead and heal up just because I feel like it's fair, and I actually ran out of power points there, so I did throw an Ether at my Amistar. So we are getting hit by every single Hydro Pump, and I'm running through all of my potions, and it's not quite enough. I'm going to go Kablooey, though, and we do a lot of damage on Gyarados, just enough that Aerodactyl can come in and take care of things. And I'm going to start going for an Agility, because if I can boost my critical hit chances, that's going to be very useful. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And we finally take down Arcanine. But that just leaves Venusaur. And like I said before, Aerodactyl is our answer to Venusaur, knocking it out. And you see, we learn Hyper Beam on the very last battle. It don't even matter. I just throw it on the team. So there it is. A nice victory for the Rock-type gym leader. And with that, Jasper can finally put his team into the Hall of Fame. And not only that, now that he's champion, he can finally do his life's mission of spelunking through Cerulean Cave. So honestly, I'm surprised that this challenge wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. The Rock types had some things going for them. Now, they were very weak, especially to water and grass. You can see Rhydon, Onix, and Golem. If you sneezed at them, they were likely gone. Amistar surprisingly did probably my MVP. This thing was probably my MVP. It took the best hits. It took the best damage. Golem actually being a top contender too. Surprisingly decent special. I didn't expect to have as good special as it did. Aerodactyl also, I loved this thing's speed. Really gave us speed on a team that really needed some speed users. Onix is surprisingly fast, but its attack is so low that it mostly just came in as a mon to either explode or do some other toxic shenanigans or screech shenanigans. So there it is. We've got another victory, this time with the Rock typing. And with that, that is all of our Generation 1 types. So stick around. I've got some other things that I'm planning to do. Give this a thumbs up if you like it, and subscribe.